The year is 1997. Mangaka Ichiro Oda introduces the iconic character Buggy the Clown to his audience for the very first time in his work. Buggy's renowned for his knack for stumbling into unusual and unpredictable situations, like in chapter 233 when Buggy ventured to a Skull Island in search of Captain John's legendary treasure, which he erroneously believed to be there. Buggy found himself in a significant conflict only to realize he's on the wrong Skull Island. Fast forward to chapter 1096, we discover that the secret Skull Island known as Hachinosu is housing an item referred to as a crown jewel. Chapter 233 in hindsight seems to foreshadow chapter 1096 because the correct Skull Island Buggy seeks is Hachinosu. Notably, Hachinosu is being implied by Ichiro Oda to hold a special rabbit through such dialogue present in the God Valley flashback. A deeper analysis of the God Valley flashback reveals that the world government refers to persons as rabbits, meaning Hachinosu could have a special rabbit or a special person. What's even more intriguing is that Ichiro Oda may have cleverly used wordplay right in front of our eyes. In Japanese, the letters L and R are interchangeable, which is why it's so mind-blowing to learn that Raftel is actually Laugh-Tail. With that being the case, I'm going to reveal to you Buggy's true name. It's Buggy the crown jewel of Hachinosu Island. I have 100 more mind-blowing evidences for today's theory that is going to make you lose your mind. But before we jump into this theory, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to never miss the sickest One Piece theory videos on all of YouTube. And my previous channel was hacked at 33,000 subscribers, so make sure you're subscribed to this brand new channel. Like seriously, scroll down and double check. And one more thing, in today's video I hid a picture of Carrot. It looks like this. If you manage to find it, comment down below the correct timestamp for a special prize. Mangaka Ichiro Oda presents the iconic character Buggy the Clown to his readership for the very first instance in this creation. Buggy was introduced all the way back in chapter 9 as early as the Orange Town arc. He seems to be a very silly character, quite the jester, but let's talk about a specific instance that he had in the pre-time skip. Around chapter 233, we see that Buggy and his crew sails to an island, specifically a Skull Island, and they said that they were there in search of Captain John's legendary treasure. This is the very first mention, the very first instance we ever heard about this Captain John's treasure. Jumping into the future, we know that in chapter 1096, Hachinosu Island was said to have a special crown jewel, and we know that this crown jewel must be a treasure of some sort, so let's dive a little bit deeper into why this matters. We know that when Buggy went to the original Skull Island, chapter 233, he got arrested and there was no legendary treasure there. This is Oda's way of saying, hey readers, Buggy went to the wrong Skull Island. The correct Skull Island is going to be Hachinosu. And I even have a video from over a year ago talking about why Hachinosu will eventually have this grand treasure revealed, with Buggy going to the wrong Skull Island, so it seems like it's crystallizing right now. Now, it's also essential to bear in mind that One Piece, being a Japanese manga, often experiences challenges in translation, causing many nuances to be lost in the process. In Japanese, the letters L and R are essentially one, and they are used interchangeably in Japanese dialect. That's why you hear people say things like Rufy, Zolo, Arabasta, etc. We could go on all day. But one of the most infamous examples of this is Raftel being Laugh-Tail, which by the way is one of the biggest mysteries in the entire story. So I strongly believe that Oda is setting up a plot twist. He is setting up some wordplay with Buggy, with his true name being Buggy the Crown. In the case of Buggy, his primary objective in the narrative isn't even the pursuit of the One Piece as Luffy's is. Again, we know that Buggy wanted Captain John's treasure when he met Luffy all the way back in Impel Down, and there's going to be another clue in this specific moment that's going to blow your mind, that's going to foreshadow Buggy the Crown. When Buggy was expressing how bad he wanted to find Captain John's treasure, he looks at Luffy's arm and sees a jewel. Buggy then goes on to explain how he needs this jewel because it's going to lead him to this grand treasure. Again, Hachinosu has a crown jewel. Buggy the Crown, the jewel that leads to the island. This theory is going to go a lot deeper. I hope you're enjoying it so far. In chapter 1095, the revelation of the God Valley incident finally unveils a significant backstory, introducing a multitude of prominent characters that contribute substantial context to the narrative. Throughout the God Valley incident, we see how the celestial dragons like to refer to people as rabbits, and then they also said that they have special rabbits and rare rabbits that are worth even more. The reason why Oda keeps drilling this into our head and keeps repeatedly showing us Hachinosu throughout the God Valley incident is because Oda's building up to reveal that the crown jewel is a special rabbit. And again, being that rabbits are people, I would argue that these rare rabbits and these special rabbits are special people. Now, who is this special person that Oda could use the Rocks Pirates in the narrative to work with? Buggy the Clown. It would make a lot of sense for Roxy Zebek the captain to entrust trust his son with Captain John, a fellow crew member. They would basically hide Buggy in their hometown, kind of like how Shanks was hidden in his hometown of God Valley. Which, by the way, let's take a look at One Piece Volume 4 Billion, because there's a lot of evidences within that argue for today's theory. It was finally revealed that Shanks was found as a baby on God Valley, and he was specifically hidden in a special treasure chest. And this was actually a long-running theory that I was dying on the hill for years on years. Now think about it, if Buggy is the treasure of Hachinosu, how ironic would it be for both Shanks and Buggy to be in treasure chests, making them parallel yet again? But upon closer examination, it becomes evident that Oda's storytelling is far more intricate and nuanced than it initially seems. So we're gonna go over a few parallels because it's quite important to today's theory. We know that Buggy has blue hair and Shanks has red hair, which is traditionally known as a famous dynamic. We also know that Buggy believes the North Pole is colder, while Shanks believe that the South Pole is colder. And Buggy was an apprentice who took the path of luck to Yonko, while Shanks was an apprentice who took the path of strength to Yonko. So with a multitude of parallels and inversions between Buggy and Shanks, it becomes quite clear that they are meant to be foil characters. So if Shanks was hidden inside of a treasure chest in his home base of God Valley, it would make a lot of sense if Buggy was the crown jewel treasure of Hachinosu hidden in a treasure chest in his home base. Which would essentially mean that Buggy has been searching for himself this whole time, Mr. Fail Upwards. Now we can actually examine the Roger Pirates to identify further parallels that establish Shanks and Buggy as foil characters. We know that in Oden's flashback, Roger said he had babies on board of his ship, and over a year ago I theorized that it was Shanks and Buggy. We later figured out that Shanks was a baby found at God Valley through One Piece Volume 4 Billion. So I would argue that Shanks' foil character Buggy must be the other baby, the crown jewel of Hachinosu that the Pirate King found. Now when we think about the character of Goldie Roger, we know that he doesn't believe in sins of father. This is why Roger went to Garp and said, hey, can you take care of my son? I don't want him taking on the sins of his father. So essentially, Roger adopted Shanks even if he's connected to Figurlin Garling, an enemy. And Roger is also adopting Buggy, the son of Zebek, who is also an enemy, making this very thematic. Even basic aspects of real life knowledge play into the parallels between Shanks and Buggy. We know that every anchor has a part called the shank, which is there to keep it stable in the water. Shanks plays that exact role by keeping the world stable, by keeping the world in balance. Yet his foil character Buggy is nothing but complete chaos everywhere he goes. So Shanks having celestial dragon blood in him is a perfect inversion to Buggy D Crown having D Clan blood in him. Now let's pause for a moment and shift our focus to Blackbeard, because believe it or not, he is poised to play a significant role in today's theory. Now again, Hachinosu was said to have a crown jewel, which was the home base of the Rocks Pirates, the home base of Roxy Zebek. If Buggy was the son of Roxy Zebek, then that is a narrative tie between the two characters of Buggy and Zebek. But more importantly, that would mean that Cross Guild inadvertently works under a crown jewel, which becomes even crazier when you think about the parallels between the Rocks Pirates and Cross Guild. For an example, both syndicates are composed of pirates who at some point became a Yonko but came together to make one big score. And may I also add that it's no coincidence by Oda that out of all imagery they could use for the marine bounties, they chose to use crowns. The connections we are delving into today between Buggy and Zebek run profoundly, and it's clear that Oda's weaving them together with a deliberate intention. A moment ago, we mentioned a few parallels between Cross Guild and the Rocks Pirates, but did you know that Buggy's own crew also parallels the Rocks Pirates? Beast Tamer Moji is a parallel to King of the Beast Kaido. Pet Lion Richie is a parallel to Golden Lion Shiki, and Iron Mace Alvida is a parallel to Big Mom. Additionally, let's briefly discuss Gaimon, a character long relegated to obscurity but poised to play a significant role in the context of Captain John's legendary treasure. Now in the pre-time skip, we know that Buggy went to the island of Gaimon, which was holding 6 treasure chests but empty. This parallels the God Valley incident, which also had 6 treasure chests and raided by Roxy Zebek himself. The symbolism of Gaimon working towards no treasure fits that of Buggy searching for no treasure. Captain John's treasure is Buggy himself. Buggy will find this lack of treasure, revealing he's the son of the man who is searching for treasure chests as well, Roxy Zebek. In this latter half of the video, I'm going to supply you with more arguments as to why Buggy is the offspring of Zebek and how it intricately ties into Captain John's treasure. We know that during the Grand War of Marineford, Buggy randomly decided he wanted to become king of the world, which ironically connects to Sengoku's dialogue, because when we learned about God Valley, he said that Zebek too wanted to become king of the world. Now I know someone's going to dive onto the keyboard and start talking about stereo free since he too said he wanted to become king of the world. But the important context to that is he was shown the empty throne and it was explained to him why there's no one ruler of the world. This inspired him to blurt out how he wants to become king of the world versus Buggy, who said it completely out of nowhere. Next, I'll present you with a family tree and provide compelling arguments that prove the accuracy of this family tree. I am arguing that Roger and Zebek are Will's sources, Ace and Buggy are their sons, and Luffy and Blackbeard are the Will inheritors. Shifting our attention back to Marineford, there are compelling arguments that support the theory of Rocksteady Buggy that emerged during this arc, so let's delve into them. We know that during Marineford, Mihawk said that Luffy was said to have a crazy power letting him build friendship and alliances very easily. I would argue that Buggy too has the same power as Luffy. Look at all of the alliances throughout the story that Buggy's able to build. Look at his ride or die crew. Look at the Impel Down prisoners. Look at Crossskill. The list goes on and on. But more importantly, this makes Buggy a parallel to Zebek, since Zebek gathered 3 future Yonko through the usage of this crazy power. Now let's turn our attention to the pre-time skip arc of Logtown and see what else emerges as far as Rocksteady Buggy goes. Smoker was saying he didn't want any pirates getting away from him. This was Oda's way of creating an inversion to the God Valley incident where Garp let Roger get away. We know that in the Logtown arc, gods are mentioned repeatedly, like Sanji saying Dragon's power might make him question God, and I believe this parallels God Valley. Like, it's literally in the name, God Valley, and we learned formidable characters or godlike characters showed up to fight, which again, the 2 key characters Buggy and Luffy both appeared in Logtown, creating a deep connection between Roger and Zebek being at God Valley, which, keep in mind, the God Valley incident was a star event for both Roger and Zebek in the first place. Certainly, let's dive even deeper into the Logtown arc and see what there is to uncover. We know that one of the biggest moments throughout that arc was Buggy trying to kill Luffy on the execution stand. I believe this is going to be significantly symbolic to Buggy's father dying to Roger. Meanwhile, the person that Buggy's trying to kill, Luffy, is the Will inheritor to Roger. Like, seriously, think about how genius that is. Look at the level of foreshadowing. It's as if Buggy is inadvertently trying to get revenge for his father, Rocksteady Zebek. Following the Logtown arc, there is a significant moment that doesn't really receive any attention or discussion. We know that before Ace had his grand battle with Blackbeard, Buggy and Ace randomly stumbled upon each other. And if we think about how Roger defeated Zebek on God Valley, it's quite ironic that their sons met up but didn't know about this connection. And it's important to note that Ace asked Buggy about Luffy, and Buggy too was searching for Luffy. So it's quite ironic that both the son of Roger and son Zebek are both searching for Luffy, the Will inheritor of Roger. Certainly, let's keep in mind the main focus of today's video, which is to explain Buggy the Crown and why it relates to Captain John's treasure. Now, I would argue that Buggy being obsessed with Captain John's treasure is a narrative tie between Buggy and the Rock's pirates. Obviously, we know that Captain John was a member, making this connection quite compelling. So let's consider how Blackbeard, the Will inheritor of Zebek, stationed himself on Hachinosu Island. Meanwhile, Buggy, the son of Zebek, is trying to get to Hachinosu Island. Narrative parallels between Buggy and Blackbeard do exist, and some of the connections have not received any attention or recognition despite being discussed in a video I made over a year ago. If you think about it, Blackbeard and Buggy are the only 2 characters that were a part of 2 of the 3 great powers, remember? Buggy was a warlord and a Yonko, and Blackbeard was a warlord and a Yonko. So it's interesting to think about how the 2 strings from Rocksteady Zebek, the Will inheritor and the son, are being used in the story right now. Now, turning our attention to the Dressrosa arc, we can discover even more arguments for Buggy being the son of Zebek, let alone a D-Clan member. We know that in multiple times throughout the arc, Law and Corazon said that the D-Clan will always brew up a storm. We know that obvious connections is Luffy, Law, Dragon, etc., but let's think about Buggy. He's constantly brewing up storms. Just look at what he was doing on Marineford, showcasing the entire war to the world. Now, in chapter 801, Doflamingo also asked when more of the D-Clan members will show themselves. I don't believe the only other answer is Vivi. I strongly believe that Oda's setting up a crazy answer like Buggy D Crown or Buggy D Clown. Further parallels between Celestial Shanks and Rocksteady Buggy become evident during one of the most exhilarating and significant moments of the series. When Shanks met up with Whitebeard in the pre-time skip, Whitebeard mentioned that the scar on his face aches, obviously referencing Figurling Garling. But in that moment, Whitebeard also asked about Buggy. Like, why would Whitebeard go out of his way to ask about Buggy? It's because Whitebeard is a family man and he's thinking about lineages all the time. So talking to Shanks about the scar that his father gave him makes sense. And asking about Buggy Buggy makes sense when we know that Zebek was Whitebeard's former captain. Now the following should be abundantly clear to you. Roger and Zebek are will sources, Ace and Buggy are sons, Luffy and Blackbeard are will inheritors. So essentially Buggy went to the wrong Skull Island instead of the correct Skull Island being Hachinosu, which was because Captain John's legendary treasure was hidden there, also known as the Crown Jewel. When Buggy finally gets there, he'll realize that he's been living the life of Gaimon this whole time, chasing a non-existent treasure. And when it comes to Japanese dialect, you can now go let all of your friends know that Buggy's true name is Buggy D. Crown.